Okay, so in this screencast, I'm going to set up the game loop and divide the game loop into sections or different game phases, so that, you know, when you launch the program, you're kind of in the mode that a video or a arcade game is in before you put in your money and start the game. It'll give you directions, or actually, or maybe even after you put in your money but haven't pressed whatever causes the game to start, where it gives you directions and you choose some options and things like that. So we're going to call that the startup state of the game. And then when the game is actually running, we're going to call that, we're going to set that to be the running state of the game. And then finally, when somebody wins, we're going to set that to be the finished state of the game. Now, you can use any words, different words you want. This is going to be a string variable that's going to help us store the value that is assigned to it at any given moment when the game is running is going to tell Python, or tell the computer what phase of the game we're in. And the reason we want to divide this up into different phases is that we have different things going on in different phases of the game. And keyboard presses mean different things depending on if the game is running or the game is in startup or finished mode. And there are probably going to be different messages that you want to display to the user, different labels that you want to appear when the game is in a different phase. So if we divide up the game loop into different states or phases, and I'm going to use gameState because that's what I've used the most. You can also use the name gamePhase if you like. That's going to help us keep our code organized and help us structure it so that we know what's going on in different portions, time periods of the game. So I'm going to make a variable, and this is before I even go into create the game loop, that's called gameState, and you could call it gamePhase if you wanted to. And I'm going to assign it a value of startup. Okay, so now I'm ready for my game loop. So I'm going to say while true. Okay, so once the program gets to this loop, it's just going to continue on until you close out the game. Now, you could put a condition here that like checks for a specific key press and maybe closes your game after they do a specific key press. We'll handle that later in the project. For now, just you can put while true. Okay, so now underneath, inside that while loop, we're going to have an if statement that is divided up based on the condition of the gameState variable. So I'm going to say if gameState is equal to startup, okay, colon, and then I'm just going to make the loop and fill in what should go in the loop later after I've created, or I'm going to make the conditional statement that's going to divide up my game loop, even if I haven't written the code that goes in different phases of the game. So elif gameState is equal to running, and then you could really just put else, because if it's now neither of those two phases, it must be the fourth one or the other one. But just to keep it clear as to what phase of the game we're talking about, I'm going to say if gameState equals finished. Okay, so that's my while loop, and now all of the rest of the code is going to go inside this if statement. There are going to be a few things that do not go inside the if statement, but almost all of it is going to go inside the sections of this statement. And then what you'll do is you'll think of what you need to have happen in each phases of the game. When the game is in startup mode, you will probably, make sure the sprites are positioned. Maybe you're going to play some certain background music in startup mode. Uh, Maybe you're going to display directions for how the user should start the game, what key presses the user is going to the users are going to press to make their sprite move, directions, anything along those lines. Okay, and then inside the startup mode, you're going to probably listen for the key press to start the game. Uh, when the game is running, and if you detect that key press, you're going to throw the game into uh, running mode. And you know what? I think maybe right now, even before I get into it, let's make a fourth phase of the game, and let's call it countdown mode. So when the game is in countdown mode, we're going to get that countdown on the screen until the game starts. Because to make the game fair, since it's two players, you don't want to have one person start the game. Uh, one of the players who's playing it, because then they'd kind of have kind of an unfair advantage over the other guy. And you don't want to have a third person in there, starting the game. So really, probably the best thing to do is to have, when they press the S key, have a countdown mode start. And then after the countdown mode is finished, you would have your game automatically go into running mode. So that means I'm going to make a fourth section in my if statement that's going to be called countdown. Okay, so in the next screencast, I'll pick up on what you need to put in each section of the game. So just give me